We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, sir. Football is in the air.
It's almost here. Thursday, we have a football game being played this Thursday. Now, it's not college football. It's also basically a glorified XFL game. But, Blake, we've got a football game this Thursday for the Hall of Fame game.
Can I tell you something?
What?
I don't watch them. I mean,
what?
I will watch it. I will keep my
you
TV,
better.
But I don't really give a shit about 7-string players playing.
I'm gonna watch it, the beginning of it, and then it's one of those things where you just kind of slowly stop paying attention to as the game progresses. But it's, you got to get that. You just got to get the taste. It's like getting a little nibble before it really starts to
getting a little nipple.
Nibble. I said 2 minutes in, 2 minutes and 30 seconds in, and we're already. It's Monday.
You said nipple. It's porn outside.
Nibble. Yeah.
It is. You already heard my dog barking earlier. I thought you said nipple. All right. We got a lot in store for you today. If that's hey, if you think that's going to be the climax of the show, just wait, because we're going into an LSU deep dive, which I'm assuming you're going to, say some things that I don't agree with.
We'll see. I'm going to have a disclaimer for when we get to that, and I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about LSU. We did my team. You crapped on my team.
I did not crap on your team.
You went out of your way to crap on your team. You said that they were going to lose to Duke to me before we started. So you already set the tone poorly for that show. You also said that they couldn't beat Ohio State, which they can. They absolutely can. And we've already, who else did we? Oh, we did Texas, which we both hate, that was fun. I'm ready
to do it 9-3.
Yeah, that's crapping on my team.
What were you last year?
We were 9-4.
Okay, so then hush.
Wait, oh my God, I don't know what our record was last year.
You were 9-4.
Yeah, we were 9-4.
You were 8-4 a season ago. I'm giving you one more win in the regular season. What are you complaining about? You're not a playoff team.
I mean, we brought in a.
You brought in nobody. You brought in an offensive coordinator that got fired.
Sam Hartman is at least worth 2 wins, especially against a team that has a new quarterback that no one has ever seen and 3 new starting offensive linemen.
You also made a Jerry Maguire video today that looked like crap.
That was terrible. They were trying to redo they did the hangover thing last year. Those jerseys are sick, though. You have to give some credit there.
I'm not a fan of green unless it's money. Or St. Patty's Day.
Just admit that you're a hater. Just admit that you're a hater, because those are fantastic jerseys. They've effed up those green jerseys before. Those are clean.
They're not too bad, but they're not my favorite. Why do I have to say they're my favorite? Are they your favorite?
They're not my favorite of all their uniforms, but I'm absolutely going to buy one.
All right. Anyway, we got a lot to get into. We'll do an LSU deep dive. Also, I mean, listen, I know that we're going to talk about this Michigan recruiting food situation that's going on, but the last time that they gave recruits hamburgers, it backfired on them.
Well, yeah, they got to be extra careful now. I'm surprised that it's not just a nice bag of Lay's and they're calling it a day. But I almost wonder, and we'll talk about it, I almost wonder if that was, done
deliberate.
Yeah. Probably not, but wouldn't put it past it.
Yeah, I mean, the kid had chicken fingers, mac and cheese, and a hot dog.
Looked great.
He also had a zebra cake. So, I mean,
if I was 17, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, but come on. The North is already known for very bland food. I've heard the North has bland food. The North has bland food. I've been to the North a lot of times. It has bland food.
Maybe in Michigan.
Salt and pepper is not a seasoning, baby. I'm just going to let you know.
Okay.
Cayenne pepper is not hot.
Maybe
it's
for
true.
other. Okay, maybe in Michigan, not for the Northeast. But I understand your point that the probably not very high standards. You would think that the football facilities would have some good food, because most of these programs serve these guys steak every other meal.
Well, actually, they do. Like, if you've ever been to a Power 5 nutrition center, it is insane the kind of food that they get, dude. Like, one player I was talking to the other day, dude, he had a ribeye steak, shrimp, and corn, and a side salad with vinaigrette, and I'm like, Jesus H Christ. Like I mean, like, that's pretty amazing. You gotta admit. All right, we'll get this rolling. Kyle says, who's your team, Joe?
Well, he figured it out a couple messages later.
He says, he's poor little Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
Tony Williams says, what's up, Blake and Joe? What's happening? Jason Brumfield says, Blake didn't lie about Notre Dame. They're not beating Ohio State. He also says, I love Orcas, though, man. I'm a big Orca fan. He says, just here to see Joe profess his secret love for the Tigers.
Why the hell is his profile picture an orca?
I don't know, but I love orcas. I love killer whales, dude. When growing up, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I loved them so much.
Really?
Yeah, I am a orca documentary homer. Like, let me just say, but I will watch an orca documentary before I watch Pac-12 football. Speaking of Pac-12 football, looks like Arizona is going to the Big 12 too.
Yeah, which we will be talking about, which is bad. It's the same. Every show, the update is the same. Oh, it's gotten worse. Oh, it's gotten worse. And the TV deal, when that gets announced, which I'm sure we're going to talk about on Wednesday or maybe Saturday, I am sure that deal is not going to be very good.
Well, with 8 teams, if you get $200 million, that's not a bad payday.
That was from an unreputable source that said that, but that's still one of the worst for a conference that's supposed to be one of the best. This year, it's going to be arguably the most competitive conference in all of college football, and this is what they've resorted to.
Well, I don't think they're the most competitive, but I get what you're saying. They had the most competitive quarterback play. Right. That's for sure. Doug Ray says, that took you as more of a Housewives watcher, Blake. No, I don't watch the Desperate Housewives. Let me just tell you this. The other night, my sister-in-law and them were over here, and they had the Bachelorette on. I'm like, what the hell are y'all watching? Yeah,
I can't watch that. Well, our guy Clay Harbor, I believe he's formerly on the Bachelorette. That was the only season that I watched, coincidentally.
Oh, really?
I was forced to watch it.
I'm assuming he didn't win it.
No, I almost vaguely remember he got hurt or something during it. They played. I vaguely remember what happened, but he ended up leaving early. It wasn't because he got kicked off.
So the NFL football player got hurt with a bunch of randos?
He was probably going too hard.
That's what she said. All right, let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those social media groups, share to all those social media pages. If you're on Facebook, hit them groups. Continue to follow the show if you're on YouTube. Climbing so quickly on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Uh-oh. We might have lost Blake. We're going to give him a second. I don't know if this is on my end or if this is on Blake's end, but we're going to find out in a very quick second. We're going to go to break really quickly, folks. We'll be right back.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
All right, so Blake is going to be coming back. Says that he flickered out and that he's going to be joining back really shortly. So for everyone who knows, we're going to be talking about LSU today. I don't want to dive into that just yet while we wait for Blake to come, return. Although it'd be kind of fitting if I just spent the next 3 minutes getting all my shots in. But no, I'm actually going to come out here and I'm going to give a lot of support for LSU when we talk about them, as much as it pains me to do so. But while we're waiting for Blake and while we're waiting for his internet to return, if not, this might end up being a shorter show than anticipated because of a storm that's rolling through. I do want to get to what we mentioned earlier with the Arizona and the Pac-12 news. So Blake mentioned how right now, as of today, as of very recently, reported on by Dennis Dodd, that the Board of Regents at Arizona are going to be meeting tomorrow for an undisclosed reason. Now, when something like this happens, it usually means that there is a big decision that needs to be made. And in this case, we know what happened last week with Colorado. Their Board of Regents met, and then they decided to leave and move on to the Big 12. And we've said multiple times on this show, we have said numerous times on this program, and Blake is the one who's had the sourcing on it, that Arizona is one of the next most likely teams to end up making that jump.
Internet went out, bro.
Well, I jumped right into the Pac-12 stuff because I didn't want to. I said that I could definitely use the next 5 minutes taking my shots at LSU while you weren't here to defend, but I thought it'd be better to talk about the Arizona stuff.
I mean, it is literally pouring here in the studio, so thank God you were here. Did we get to the commercial break and everything?
I threw us to commercial as soon as you disconnected, and then I started talking about Arizona because, again, I didn't want to jump into LSU without you being here. So do we want to start with just talking about Arizona, Big 12 for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll get into our
since you're already talking about it, we can talk Arizona. So where did you leave off?
Left off with how things were so similar last week with Colorado, where their Board of Regents met, and then it was just abruptly they're moving on to the Big 12. And we're now here doing the same exact thing. I mean, should we go as far, and I said this to you in the pre-show, should we go as far as to assume that this is a guarantee that what's that decision makes, that decision is going to be made, is that they're going to be leaving?
Well, what did I tell you? What was it, Wednesday?
Yeah.
What did I tell you Wednesday? I literally came out here and said, Joe, nobody's talking about this. The next school is going to be Arizona. Again, in the comments, what happened? Obliterated. You know, one guy said my titty nipples look like they point sideways. I don't know what I'm talking about. And all of a sudden, here comes Arizona going to the Big 12. Joe, here's the truth. The Big 12 is not playing with anybody. They're not playing.
No.
And the only thing that I would fear is, I mean, what's the Pac-12 going to do? Look, I know that you want the ACC and Pac-12 to merger. It's not gonna happen.
I'm saying that mostly in jest, but in actuality, though, like, what are their other options? They're gonna be the Pac-8.
They don't have options, Joe.
They're who are they gonna add that's gonna help them? Fresno State and San Diego State aren't exactly going to. They're not exactly going to save them. So their next best option is to join forces with an already established conference. Wouldn't that be the best way to stay afloat?
Do that, and the schools in that conference won't allow that to happen, though, because like I've been saying for so long, the ACC has a contract until 2036. They're not going to do it. And you know who else ain't going to let them do it? ESPN.
Well, the other thing that's been talked about, though, recently is that...
And what do you call it? Well, the PAC? The PAC? Like, what do you call it?
The PAC. with a bunch of extra A's and C's. Look, there's a lot of just rumors that are being floated out there, and so there's really not much legitimacy to any of this. So at what point... It's impossible to really know where any of this is actually going. But the other thing that's been floated out there is that Florida State's trying to find a realistic measure for them to buy themselves out of their current deal. And we talked about that on the last show. And that if that does happen, does that not behoove the ACC to try and find its own way to stay afloat? Both of these conferences are in bad position.
But they're not doing that, though. They can't afford to do it. Joe, they can't afford to do it.
So then what do you think is their best next option? If they lose Arizona, them losing Colorado to me it's kind of non-consequential. As big as
it's going to be very consequential if Deion gets that thing rolling.
Yes, but to lose the best basketball team, after they lost USC and UCLA, they are in a completely barren situation.
Here's what they got to do. Here's the truth. You ready? Call Gonzaga.
But the Gonzaga doesn't have a football program.
Got to put them. It doesn't matter. You got to let them play. You got to let them not do it. You got to do something. Joe, what else are they going to do? What else are they going to do? San Diego State played the hokey pokey. They said they were leaving the Mountain West. Then they said,
they might not even be able to get them now.
They
might not even be able to get
San Diego State just paid $15 million to get back in.
Exactly.
So it's not going to happen. Here's the God's honest truth. You ready? Okay. They're screwed, buddy. They're screwed. The only thing that I can think that they're going to have to come up with some off the wall BS stuff. They're going to have to pull like a Nebraska. They can't do it. They're going to have to try. They're going to have to give them $40 million a year, but they can't do that.
Well, so here's what I think is the ultimate reality of this. And I feel like it's one thing that has been hinted at, but not fully talked about. This might literally be the dissolving of the Pac-12. Like, what commitment do those teams now have to them to stick around?
But this happens. The Big South, the Big Eight, conferences dissolve, okay? And so I hate to say this, and I don't want to be political, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you go broke. That, like they did some things
during COVID.
During COVID that set them back. And the truth is that if you want to be political, the South, the Northeast, the historic person that watches football, why is ESPN so down? Oh, well, everybody in the South's not watching. No, that's BS. What's happening is people around the country, the modern human being doesn't want to hear about you talking about whatever political thing you want to talk about in the middle of a football game. Yeah. That is what happened during COVID, and they botched it. Joe, they didn't play football. They weren't going to play football. And so when they continued to be progressive and force politics on college athletics, I mean, the truth, LA left them because LA is a lot of things, but one thing that you don't mess with in LA is sports.
Money.
And I don't want to get political, but you know that it's the truth. Nobody's going to rip that Band-Aid off and say what the truth is. That is the underlying truth. It doesn't matter if you're on the right. It doesn't matter if you're on the left. We want to talk about football. We want to talk about sports. That's how I see it, though, man. That's how I see it.
I completely agree, especially for the truth is, and again, it hasn't been talked about. The way that they handled COVID protocols, the amount of games that they played, all that crap, that their handling of that set them up for this failure. That set them back. That took them 2 steps back. And look, it doesn't help that like LA was one of the worst cities in the country in terms of handling of COVID because they shut down, they opened up, they shut down, they opened up. I was here for half of that. It was total, utter bullshit. But as you're talking about here, like they were declining. That the Pac-12 has declined since. And that was, I think, one of the bigger catalysts. I really, really do think, as you said a second ago, the dissolvement of conferences happens all the time. And I think that this is inevitably what's going to happen. It's just like, where do they go, though? The other teams. Do they end up in the Big 10 and the Big 12? They all just spread out? Is that what's going to happen?
I don't know. I mean, the Big 10 has shown if they wanted Oregon, they could go get them. If they wanted Oregon, they would have gone and gotten them. I don't know. I mean, maybe you have some. Look, here's the truth. I find it hard to believe that Koletikov, or whatever his name is,
Koyakov,
whatever, Queefkov, whatever his name is,
Kleofkoff.
I mean, he can't. Is he just sitting at his desk? Like, what is he doing? Is he not making phone calls? Like, what is he doing?
Well, he called the ACC. He made a phone call with the ACC, which apparently was
Let's
very
get
important.
real. Let's get real. Like, come on. I'm tired of hearing him say, let's merge. The ACC don't want you. Joe, it's like the fat girl at homecoming. Nobody, I mean, I probably should say it's the unattractive girl at prom. Doesn't nobody really want to take her?
Well, that was the metaphor that I used on yesterday's show. Is that
I know, I'm stealing it.
Sometimes you got to be making, you got to be checking in on your side pieces to see how they're doing.
By the way, did you see the picture of me and my wife at the wedding? God, did I outpunt my coverage?
No, I didn't see that.
Outpunted my coverage. She's hot. I'm not. I mean, I do have a very strong jawline, but nevertheless,
you can't even see with the beard.
You can see my chin.
Yeah, I know.
My chin's right here. You know that I have a very masculine chin.
I'm giving you
that's
shit.
all I'm saying. All right. You want to dive into this LSU deep dive?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, everybody's going to do us a favor and hit the like and share. I gave you you let me have the floor on Notre Dame to start off because that was your team. I am going to reciprocate the favor for you. So here we go. We're diving into LSU, the reigning, defending SEC West champs. Go ahead, sir. What do you think about the LSU Tigers 2023? Here comes some bullshit. I can already tell you got some bullshit of brewing.
As I said earlier, this deserves a disclaimer.
Okay.
I am not making any of these statements because I allowed you to sway me in any form or fashion. I am not making any of these projections because I do a show with you. Because honestly, but behind closed doors, Blake, when I talk to other people and then also out there on social media, a lot of people now think I'm an LSU homer by association because I do the show with you.
Hell yes. Enjoy it.
Relax. Settle down. It pains me that I have to give support for your team, but I am a realist. I am breaking down this team as I see fit, as I see as how things have broken down at the end of last season. You guys winning the West, the way that you performed in the transfer portal. I can't deny a well put together roster. And I said this when we did those SEC previews that I don't see a reason why LSU does not win their division again this upcoming season. I do not see a reason why they can't go 11-1 at the bare minimum this upcoming season. The expectations should be incredibly high. This is the most talented roster that Brian Kelly has ever had and worked with. And I am saying that as somebody who has watched Brian Kelly year in and year out in his time at Notre Dame. He has not had nearly this much talent. Notre Dame fans, if you want to pick me apart, go ahead. But we got to be honest with ourselves. If they had this much talent, they would have been able to put up more of a fight against Clemson and Alabama when they reached the college football playoff in those years when they allegedly had talented rosters. I can't deny any of this, Blake, because they've got an elite pass rusher and they've got a quarterback in Jane Daniels, who I think, as I've said multiple times, fits exactly with what Brian Kelly needs to succeed. There are athletes all over this roster. I don't see anyone else in the West that is as talented as this team. 11-1 is the floor. And if they don't achieve that, to me, that's a disappointment.
I'm so fucking proud of you.
Eat shit.
I do agree that in the West, they are the most talented. Okay, you may give some individual battles or some things to like Alabama because Alabama, look, let's not get it twisted. Alabama has a very good roster, top to bottom. The blue chip ratio is insane. The thing, though, for me, Joe, is what Brian Kelly has done along both lines of scrimmage. You have 2 5-star tackles in Emory Jones and Will Campbell. You go and get an all Big Ten performer in Mason Lunsford that more than likely is going to start at right guard. Joe, they are 8 or 9 deep along the offensive line that I quite honestly believe could start for any team in the SEC not named Georgia. The defensive line, 5-star defensive tackle Mason Smith is back. He didn't play last year because he tore his ACL in the opening drive against Florida State. Let's see how he rebounds, but we've already seen him, and he is, nothing has really changed. He looks like the freak of nature that he is. You talk about Harold Perkins. You talk about another 5-star defensive lineman, Deshaun Womack. They have a crap load of pieces. The only question mark that I think LSU doesn't know yet, and Brian Kelly has said as much, is they don't know what they have in the defensive back room. They got a lot of players from the portal, another 5-star in Denver Harris that comes over from Texas A&M. It's going to be playing at LSU this year, more than likely starting. They have a lot of talent. The bottom line question will be, can they put it all together? But there's two names that I think everybody needs to get associated with. Mm-hmm. Let's go offensively. Number one, former 5-star wide receiver, and y'all can look all this up. Like, this isn't me just saying, like, these are bona fide 247 5-star athletes. 5-star wide receiver Aaron Anderson, and Joe, I think that arguably a guy that you're going to be making a debate about at the end of the year for the defensive player of the year, and Omar Speights coming from Oregon State. The kid can flat out play. He just won like the Iron Tiger Award that Brian Kelly brought over from Notre Dame, the Iron Irish, whatever it was they were calling it. Now he won the Iron Tiger Award. I think they are the deepest team in the SEC, not named Georgia. Quite honestly, I think it's Georgia right now for this season. Yes. I think it's Georgia and LSU. I don't think it's Georgia and Alabama. They do have to go to Tuscaloosa. That place is never easy to play in. I think both teams could be undefeated going into that game as well. The bottom line, though, is they not only are they deep, it comes down to Jaden Daniels. Has Jaden Daniels taken that next step? And if he has, watch out. But I do think that this team is a playoff contending team. I do agree with you, and I'm not saying this, and I told you this when I talked about Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. I do think that this team is playoff contending. I think the athletes on the outside Brian Kelly's never had before. It's
no, absolutely not. No.
That is what has now separated him to me from what he was doing at Notre Dame to what he now has at LSU. That's gonna work wonders for him. I hear guys and not taking shots, just being realistic. I hear guys like Driscoll. I hear guys like I forget the other guy's name, or like Ryan. Well, they're like, what about Will Fuller? Buddy, they got 6 of them.
He was a 3-star recruit too when he came in.
Well, with all due respect, they got 7 of those. Okay, legitimately.
Yeah,
that's the point. Joe, 4 5-star wide receivers are in this room. 4. That it's just different. The talent is immense. I think the coaching is immense, and I think the ultimate truth has been for me, if a coach like Nick Saban or Brian Kelly ever got to LSU, it's another sleeping giant waiting to happen. Dog, we won titles with Les Miles and Ed Orgeron. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah. Everything I think right now is perfectly aligning for them to be really good this upcoming season. I'm not going to go as far as to say I think that they're going to win a national championship. I think that some of those holes that you mentioned might come back to bite them in the ass in the SEC championship game, in the college football playoff. I do want to talk about, though, you mentioned their secondary. I think that to me is one of the strongest points of make or break for them. Does the new group of guys that steps in, do they gel cohesively enough that they can be one of the best secondaries in the SEC? And like there is that concern, obviously. It is a young group of guys that have not played together before. Denver Harris was a very highly recruited player when he was previously at Texas A&M. And look, I know everybody doesn't love him, including my co-host on another show, Ryan Roberts, doesn't love him as much as I do. But Zy Alexander's a really good football player. He's tall, he's long, he's got good range, and he has been not talked about enough. Only one service had him as a really highly rated recruit. I think it was 24/7 Sports. But like, where is he expected to play? Is he expected to play outside?
He's gonna be on the boundary. Which look, I watch every Southeastern football game, every one of them. Joe, he's the reigning defending. Well, he's the back-to-back Southland Conference Defensive Player of the Year twice.
His ball skills are phenomenal. And look, I don't think that Trevon Diggs is kind of an up and down player in his time in college at Alabama, but like I see some shades of that where he just knows how to make plays on the football. He might not be super consistent, but when the ball is up in the air and he's near the football, he's going to come down with that ball. I really like Zion. I really like Zion Alexander. If that works out, if you guys can lock down some of these teams that have some explosive receiving cores, like you got to put up a bigger fight against Tennessee this year.
They don't play Tennessee.
They don't.
The only time they'd play Tennessee would be in the SEC championship.
Why did I think that they were playing Tennessee?
Yeah, they don't play Tennessee.
Well, Florida State is the other one too that's got a ridiculous receiving core.
Well, and look, I think that you're going to get a litmus test for both of them. I've made my prediction, Joe. You ready for it? Here's my 4 playoff teams. A lot of people aren't going to like it, but this is how I'd see it going. I think LSU and Georgia both get in. I think both teams going to the SEC undefeated. Whoever loses is going to get in. You ain't going to like this one. I think Florida State's getting in. I am on this Florida State train. And I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people aren't going to like. I think USC is getting in.
Over Michigan.
Either USC, Michigan, or Ohio State. Look, here's the thing for me. Or Penn State. I don't really care who's going to get that 4th seed. Toss a coin for all I care. But I feel very confident in those 3 teams. They are the most talented teams. Can they be the most well coached? I think you might have a bloodbath in the Big Ten. I don't know who's going to come out of that. That's why I'm not picking them. But I do know that USC does not have a tough schedule, and I do think that they got better. Now, I don't like what they're going to do defensively, but, Joe, here's the problem with USC. Where they did get better defensively, they don't play anybody. I think Utah is going to be down a little bit. I think they're going to be able to, up front, be better. But regardless, Florida State and LSU week 1 is a playoff game. It's a playoff game. Like, bottom line, top to bottom, is a playoff game. I know this went viral on the charity strike with our good friends over the charity strike. Joe, I am more nervous if I'm an LSU fan. I am more nervous about Florida State than Alabama.
For different reasons.
For all the reasons. Quarterback, running back, offensive line, defensive line, linebacker. Joe, name a unit. Name the unit that Alabama is better than Florida State in.
Coaching staff.
Oh, okay.
But that's my That's my whole point.
Touche.
That's my whole point. Is that that's my whole point though, Blake, is that Florida State presents the challenge of they're one of the most athletic teams in the country. They've got one of the best rosters in the country. They had the best portal haul. It is going to be athletes on athletes in that battle. Head-to-head matchup of athlete on athlete of LSU versus Florida State. But we can't act like Saban isn't going to be able to pull something out of his ass to prepare for that game, and he isn't going to be pissed off about the outcome from last year. I can't remove Alabama from having a shot of winning that game. That game is going to be a really close battle. And to your point, they're at Tuscaloosa. It's at Bryant-Denny. To have to battle with Nick Saban, who is going to find a way to win that game, that is one of their losable games next year. It's not I would, I'm going to go as far as to say a neutral site game against Florida State is not as difficult as having to play at Alabama, even with their deficiencies.
I fully disagree.
You're not worried about Saban. You're not worried about that coaching staff.
Why would I be worried about him?
Because he's the best.
You know why I don't worry about him?
Why?
You're gonna hate this. You ready for this real take?
Mm-hmm.
BK. If this
because BK got him once, he's gonna get him again.
I think he's gonna get him again. But you're gonna have to explain to me what unit at Alabama's better. At some point, Alabama's going to win the West. Name the position group that Alabama is better in than Florida State. I guarantee you can't do it.
Maybe their secondary. No, yeah, maybe their secondary. Right, this is the point.
If Kool-Aid McKinstry is the dude, Fentrell Cypress wipes him out.
It's a fair point.
Okay. Again, that defensive line is better than Alabama. That offensive line is better than Alabama. And here's the truth. Mm-hmm. Jordan Travis is better than anything that they have in that room at quarterback.
I don't disagree with that. And that's why, and we already did our deep dive on Alabama. I really don't see a path for them to win the West. It's just they're going to have to go. They have to go perfect.
They're going to have to dominate defensively, Joe. It's the only way.
And there are holes on that roster. There's
holes in the roster.
There are guys that need to fill in.
But who's going to start that run? I mean, theoretically, we know, but they're replacing 3 pieces on the defensive line. Dallas Turner returns, but you are replacing, and people hate him, but you're replacing Henry To'oTo'o, who's back-to-back 100 tackle seasons. That is not a small feat. It's not.
What I'm trying to get at here, though, is that even with a lesser roster and on paper, LSU is significantly more talented. Okay, actually, wait, that's going to be taken out of context and it's going to sound ridiculous. Let me rephrase. LSU is a more talented roster than Alabama. That is not an outrageous take to make. But as we've seen in the SEC, anybody can win on any given Saturday.
No doubt.
If Jimbo with that shitty roster could put up that much of a fight against Alabama, and I know that it was Jalen Milroe playing quarterback, I don't see a reason why. What I'm trying to get at here is that Alabama could theoretically upset them. Like that to me is like one of the things, as much as I just talked up LSU, I think it is a very possible thing that can happen in 2023.
I'm not saying that LSU can't be beat by them. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
But you positioned like Florida State versus Alabama from an LSU fan's perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
Joe, here's the truth. LSU has more success going into Tuscaloosa than anybody not named Auburn. Okay. They play really well there. It's week 1. You have some new pieces in the secondary, which you will have all those answers by November the 4th. You don't have those answers week 1 against Florida State. Like you don't. And again, the receiving core is better. The quarterback is better. I think right now, for what we know, the running backs are better. Again, I don't look at Alabama as a team that I once looked at and got scared at. The only team that I look at and is like, oh, shit, is Georgia. And every team, Joe, I don't care if a chimpanzee is playing quarterback. Georgia is the team, when you look at them on paper, they are what you would look at in Alabama. Like, that is the truth.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is actually a good angle to take this on.
All right.
From your perspective, if they don't accomplish that, because I think you and I are on the same page here. The expectation is it has to be win the West. It can't be anything less. And frankly, if you go less than that, that is an underperformance. If they don't win the West, if that's not accomplished, if you're to predict right now what would be the cause of that, what do you think it would be? What do you think would prevent them? Their secondary is just straight up. Their secondary would be the reason.
Well, if they don't hit the 10-2, 11-1 mark, it's because I think they had injuries or they had some really bad luck. That's what I think would have happened. I just don't know what they have in the secondary, right? But here's for me, I just see them getting to 10 wins in the regular season. It's where I see them at. I think anything below that in the regular season is a disappointment. I hate to use the word disappointment, is not meeting up to your expectations.
I mean, I would actually go as far as to argue that, I would only 10 wins seems low for me, because 10 wins might position you out of the playoff.
Well,
again, that's what's
special
crazy.
Teams is just something that we talk about a lot. Special teams wise, they're horrendous, or they've been horrendous.
Yeah.
As Brian Kelly, midway through the season, when they stopped having issues, it's because Brian Kelly took over the unit and he fired Brian Polian, who you love so much.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, Good riddance.
That dude like Polian that much?
Cancer. Do you hear me? A cancer.
Which is hilarious to say about a special teams coach.
Well, he just played. He acted like this was high school. And when he found out, Joe, here's the truth. Can I tell you something? Yeah. Brian Kelly learned more about the South and LSU through Brian Polian than any game taught him last year at all. Like, Joe, like the simple nature that LSU fans were on his ass to fire him during a game, they are not joking.
Yeah.
They will come out there and put him in federal prison if they have to. They don't care. They will ship him. They will pack all the bags up and get him out of there. That's what I think Brian Kelly learned more about how this is going to work than with Brian Polian than any game taught him, because he already knew. What did he not know about Alabama? What did he not know?
He's gotten his ass kicked enough by them.
He already knows what he's got to do to get the athletes in here. He knows what he's got to do. But he didn't realize when the chirping starts, like there's no room for error. I just think that this team's going to be really good. Like if we're talking about injuries, nobody really getting hurt, this team's going to be really good. I think the reason they are is because they're led by Jaden Daniels. Now, one thing that we need to talk about, because we have not talked about him enough so far on this. He's number 2 in the Heisman odds, and that's Jaden Daniels. Can he put it all together? Can he look? You know, one thing too.
Yeah.
That I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman, but Joe, if he has better acclimate in the passing game, it's going to be dangerous for a lot of people.
Look, all right, here's where I think I'm going to piss you off. I'm going to bring us back down to earth a little bit on here.
All right.
I think that I really like Jaden Daniels for this offense. I like Jaden Daniels for what he is for Brian Kelly. But I will not go as far as to say that I just don't think that Jaden Daniels, he's not going to win the Heisman. He's not. And I really don't think he belongs in the stratosphere of the conversation. I think his performance is critical for LSU to reach where they need to go.
Can I pause you right there?
Okay. Can
you expound on why? Like, give me a reason why he shouldn't.
I think there are more quarterbacks. There are other quarterbacks that are more significantly impactful to their team's success in college football than Jaden Daniels. If he's at the podium, it's going to be the Stetson Bennett effect of really good football team, right place, right time, does everything that your team needs to do to win football games, but not necessarily he's not Caleb Williams. He's not Drake May. He's just not. Those are the two guys that he needs to realistically beat out if he's going to win that award.
In fairness, what's Caleb Williams against top 25 teams?
What is his record? I don't know.
Winless. Let me back up. I'm sorry. Okay. He is 1-5 against top 25 teams. They beat UCLA.
He is still.
I don't give two freaking Rudy Poos that he threw 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
But here's the difference, though. We already have context of that. If Jaden Daniels goes down, Garrett Nussmeier steps in, and look
because his backup is there does not constitute that he doesn't win big games.
If Caleb Williams and Drake May are not on their football teams, both of those teams are 8-win teams, maximum. Last year,
I don't agree with that because USC. What was the kid that they just got in?
No. I'm talking about last year. I'm not talking about this upcoming 20.
Well, we're talking about this
season.
We're talking about my year.
Yes, my point that I was making with Caleb Williams is that he won that award because their success all fell on his shoulders, and now this upcoming season, their success again falls on his shoulders. Same thing for Drake May.
On every quarterback's shoulders.
It does, but I'm trying to get at here is that Jaden Daniels is a quality starting quarterback, and he's the best returning SEC quarterback, but I don't think he fits into that Heisman Trophy winning category. He just doesn't. He's in the right offense, right place, right time.
I don't.
And again, I think that's again. I knew that you weren't going to agree with that.
I do think that there constitutes Heisman moments, and Jaden Daniels has had more Heisman moments about beating real teams than Caleb Williams ever has. Joe, the last time that every time that he's played top 25 opponents, let's see.
They beat Notre Dame too. That's 2 wins against top
Notre Dame wasn't ranked when they played.
Yes, they were.
No, they weren't. I went back and checked.
I'm
They're ranked at the end of the year, yes, but they weren't ranked when they played. Notre Dame was 3-3 or 3-2.
No. That when Notre Dame USC played one another,
they weren't ranked.
That was at the end of the season. That was the last game of the season. They were number 18 in the country.
Oh, okay.
They were 8-3 coming into that game.
Y'all played. No, that was Stanford that y'all lost to.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. My bad. Yes, okay, so he's what 2-5.
He won that award with the way that he played against Notre Dame. Is that okay? But like, is Jaden Daniels' Alabama performance, is that enough to hand him the Heisman Trophy? And does he have more games like that in him in 2023? I feel like his progression is a little bit. It's not completely capped, but he's pretty close to his ceiling in this offense.
I don't think he's capped.
How much better can he get, though?
I think significantly.
I
think that the nerds at Pro Football Focus go, no quarterback's ever done it before after they've had this many starts in college football. And then y'all jizz over a guy like Anthony Richardson who can't throw.
One of those. Wait, Anthony Richardson's does not fit the criteria of a PFF.
Did a film study against him against LSU, the game that y'all jizzed all over him for. He fucking sucked. Let's call it what it is. Look at how far he threw a deep pass. And then you don't constitute quarterbacks throwing the ball. At some point, winning has to matter. It
doesn't for NFL draft projections. It doesn't.
Are you sure? Because winners always name a losing quarterback in college that's going to the NFL and won.
There's very few.
Oh, that's right. You can't.
It doesn't usually happen. But I can tell you right now that the NFL's opinion on Anthony Richardson last year coming into the season is a lot higher than the NFL's opinion on Jaden Daniels right now coming into the season. But again, we're not talking about NFL projections.
Joe Burrow was projected a 7th round pick. Was he capped?
No, he was.
Pause for me.
Wait. Well, Joe Burrow's progression is unheard of. That has never happened that never happens.
Why can't it happen at LSU a second time?
Because it's highly improbable to happen a second time.
It's improbable that 2 coaches in year 2 win national titles at the same institution.
I think that's more realistic than Jaden Daniels turning into an elite, extremely dominant college quarterback. I think he's a good starter. I think he's a really good quality starter. And as we've talked about on the show,
if he wins the Heisman, if he wins a natty and Brian Kelly wins a natty, I'm going to be teabagging all the Notre Dame fans.
That's my point, is that you'd rather have the guy that does his job and plays well within the system, and that you win games because everybody plays well together and you go on to win a national championship, than the guy who wins the Heisman and then loses to Tulane. That's what I'm trying to get at. I think he's more slightly above average than he is elite. I don't think he fits into the elite category.
I don't like you sometimes.
I couldn't let you win the whole show.
I didn't win any of it.
Well,
this is the first season JD5 will have the same offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coaching back-to-back.
He was at Arizona State. Like what?
Joe, in fairness now, remember the Hugh Jackson, not Hugh Jackson. What was his name?
Herm Edwards.
What was his head coach? Hugh Edwards. Herm Edwards. They didn't have the quarterback coach. They didn't have offensive coordinators. He had 3 different systems. He had to go through the pandemic. What is his and truthful and then not really arguing with you just to argue? What was his real progression? Like in fairness, what was his real progression? Because
I saw last season his signs of improvement. I saw from his Arizona State tape of great athlete, good arm, but not putting it together because he didn't have like all the stuff that you talked about. And you saw him get more comfortable as the season went on last year. Like there's a progression. He was more consistently accurate. wasn't in that top 10 category, but he was more consistently accurate as the season went on. That's where the progression is. So I don't think he's not going to get more accurate. His arm's not going to get that much better.
Okay. I'll stay on the I'll just stand on this island by myself. Everybody hates Jaden Daniels.
Every outsider hates Jaden Daniels. Chicken fingers. Chicken fingers.
Oh yeah, chicken fingers before we get out of here.
Okay, so I joked earlier. Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I joked earlier that there was a possibility that was done intentionally, but I actually don't think that's the case. I really
Can you tell everybody what you're talking about first, just in case they didn't.
Yes, the picture of the Michigan recruit that, first of all, he posted that, and he seemed more than happy about the fact that he was sitting there eating snack bar, chicken fingers, and mac and cheese on his recruiting visit. I think that is all they had prepared and available. I don't think that they would decided to go above and beyond. But again, I said this at the beginning of the show, like, if I was 17 and I showed up that was put on my plate, I'd be more than happy. And the kid clearly was happy. He posted it. He posted it on his Twitter. It's like when Clemson went to the White House. And those kids were so happy to be eating McDonald's. They were so happy. And everyone's like, this is outrageous that they served the McDonald's. You think that an offensive lineman's not going to sit there and be like, I get to take out how many burgers? They don't care. Well,
it was funny when they did the McDonald's. Look, I feel like I'm getting way too political in this show, but you got the president of the United States saying, there's the Big Macs. There's the quarter pounders. I do think that's funny. However, regardless, what I think is crazy is that I feel like Jim Harbaugh did this on purpose.
I think it's possible. It's a possible.
They did it on purpose because if you hadn't seen it, Harbaugh got popped because apparently he was buying recruits hamburgers. Joe, this is so comical. You know what I mean? Like, what are you feeding these kids? You know what's more interesting? We were just talking about LSU. The number one player in the country, Bryce Underwood, was in Baton Rouge on Friday, and LSU fans went stupid saying, bro, why are you going up there eating hot dogs when you can come down here and eat the best food in the country? So I do think it's like Harbaugh's just so weird. Like a hot dog.
If you really wanted to cause problems, it should have been only hamburgers and nothing else. But wait, before we wrap, I want to ask you this: did you take an official visit, or did you just take like a game day visit and you signed?
I took 3 official visits
at
Southeastern, ULM, and I want to say, what was it, McNeese? So no, believe it or not,
Nichols?
No, I didn't. I was never going to Nichols. Okay. I took an unofficial visit to LSU.
I feel like that happens with a lot of kids in state.
Yeah, I had an unofficial visit to LSU. They were like, "You're too fat and slow."
When for your recruiting visit for Southeastern Louisiana, what did you have?
We had gumbo.
Really?
Do you know what gumbo is?
Yeah, I know what gumbo is.
Yeah, we had gumbo, and then we had jambalaya for when we were leaving that Sunday, and I think they gave us like a care package. I'll never forget this. They had like Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh my god! Oh, I would have signed immediately.
Yeah, they had Krispy Kreme donuts on the care package on the way out. Yep. But Louisiana's a very tough place for you to say, "Hey, did you have good food on your?" Right. And then, bro, we had. Do you know what a po' boy is?
Yeah, I know what a po' boy is.
Okay. The Friday that we got there, they gave us po' boys, and dog, I was in hog heaven. I mean, we ate pretty. I thought it was, pretty awesome, to be honest with you.
I do find my official visit, I find it really funny though that like this is what was fed to him. And on my visit, like they put us in the nicest hotel there's not that many hotels in Narragansett, but they put us in a hotel. It was on the water, and we ate at the nicest restaurant, and it was all like really high end fish and like calamari and stuff. And like my freshman year, we won 2 games. we won 2 games in an FCS conference. So it's just funny to like, look at this stuff. It doesn't really matter. I would have been happy eating chicken fingers. I wouldn't have complained.
I mean, I just don't think, I really don't think that a kid's going to make a decision based off of him eating a hot dog or not.
Yeah. Like he'll do what I did, which is, what do the girls look like when you go to the party? That was how I made.
What's interesting? I didn't even think about that. Like I was so worried about like depth chart and stuff like that. Like I didn't even care about it.
Yeah, my dumbass was not. I wish I was thinking like that. And I did start as a freshman, but my dumbass was too focused on the wrong things.
Of course you were. All right. Great episode. Glad you came around. Finally.
It pains me.
It shouldn't, because the truth should never pain you.
Yeah. But I'm telling you guys right now, the first dumb game you guys lose, I'm going to be insufferable on this show. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street with Notre Dame. It's a two-way street with Notre Dame.
Are you going to beat Marshall this year?
We're not playing Marshall this year. We're playing Tennessee State.
You never know. You could play him in the Independence Bowl because you're both 6-6. You never know.
Exactly. So, because I know you're going to give me crap, I'm going to be giving you crap. So, just be prepared. That's going to happen.
Well, every time you say that, Joe, that means usually LSU wins. All right, we'll see y'all Wednesday. Y'all have a good one. Peace.